Hi everyone.
We're back. We had a little technical issue to start with, so we're back. We're gonna wait till a few people jump on. I hope you've had a good summer. It's been good around our house. It's been hot. I'm not sure what the temperature has been, but I believe that it has been one of the hottest summers we've ever had.
It's miserable. It's
miserable.
not even enjoyable at this point.
No.
It's just awful.
It is. Somebody referred to it as the dog days of summer. I don't think the dogs even like this.
I mean,
it's so hot. So hot. We've had quite a busy summer. We did, of course, school gets out in May here, usually before Memorial Day.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started doing a few things. Having a good summer. I don't even remember what all we've done. I just know we did go on vacation. I hope you guys went on vacation too. But we went on vacation to Myrtle Beach, and on our way home, it was awful.
Yes.
We ran into a thunderstorm that lasted about 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've ever been on the coastal areas in South Carolina, but they don't call it low country for nothing. The water doesn't go anywhere. When it rains, it just stays on the roads. And so people were hydroplaning, they were running off the roads, there were car accidents, and then of course you add construction into that, and that's even better.
But the best thing happened, and that is that we were able to get hot and ready Krispy Kreme.
Yes. We stopped on the side of the road. We actually stopped to get gas. And Jordan said, "Oh, Mom, there's a Krispy Kreme." It was just directly across the street. So I think it was probably God that we stopped, and we ate donuts all the way home. Mm-hmm. And they were so good. And of course, Krispy Kreme donuts are good any time of the day. It doesn't matter. They're not just for breakfast. Oh, that's a good slogan for Krispy Kreme. They're not just for breakfast. So we did have Krispy Kreme. We got home late, and then the next day we repacked and went to Tennessee for a family reunion.
Miserable.
And it was hotter there than it was in Georgia. And so we had a long trip up there. It wasn't horrible, but it's still pretty busy. And we had a little family reunion luncheon, and we can't call it really a family reunion because it was just lunch, but we had really great food. I have so many family members that can cook well. And so we had lots of good food and lots of good we had singing and, talking. Mm-hmm. And Jordan and Jelly left on Sunday to come back home. And then Nana and I came back home on Monday, had people there from, that defected and went north. And so they live in Indiana. And so Mom's cousin came down. And it was it's always good to see people you don't even know who they are. So I had ordered name tags. I made everybody wear name tags because I didn't know some of these people. There were about 55 or 60 that were there. And so Nana and I came home the next day, and within a day, we were not feeling well. And
yeah.
15 of us came down with COVID again. So it was horrible. It was horrible. It was horrible. And this one, I think this bout of COVID was probably worse than either of my first two. What about
really?
You? Yeah.
No, my second one was the worst.
Yeah, I've had it 3 times. Jordan's had it 4. And
yeah.
So it was, it was pretty interesting, and we kept getting calls. Hey, I have COVID. Didn't know if anybody else did, and so I started counting. And 15.
Super spreader.
Yeah, it was a super spreader. But boy, did we have a good time. And even the elderly people that were there at the family reunion didn't have any complications from it. So we were all grateful.
Yeah.
So anyway, we had a good time, and I know school has started back for most people. So what's going on in your life, Jordan?
Well, before I'm sort of like, I should have probably had some coffee before I came here tonight because it was leg day and I worked out. Leg day is always draining, and then I cooked dinner, Jelly and I ate, and it was good. But I'm excited because Mom, big announcement. Your book is out.
It is.
Yes.
It is. It was shipped in, and we had a book signing at Griffin First Assembly on Sunday.
It's in,
and
let me give like a little.
It's backwards. How do you make it not be backwards? You can't
No,
really do that,
it's
can
probably.
you?
I don't know if it's backwards on the screen or not, but here it is. So what we're gonna do right now is we are going to have a giveaway. And yes, we are. Okay. And my mom didn't know this. My mom she is very, she likes to have everything scheduled, and she likes to know what I'm going to say and what I'm going to do. But I'm like,
always?
Yeah, I'm like, no, we're not going to do that.
She wouldn't even tell me what she was going to ask tonight, y'all.
No. Because I didn't want her, I wanted it just to flow. You know, I didn't want her to like read from answers, because that's what she normally does, is read from a sheet of paper.
I don't always read from a sheet of paper. It's like a cheat sheet. It's like notes.
No, I didn't want that.
Well, okay. We don't have it tonight.
No, we don't. And I think it's better. I don't know. I just think it's better for something like this. So what we're going to do is we are going to ask all of you to like and share this live video. And what we're going to do is, out of everyone that shares the live broadcast that we're doing right now, we are going to have a drawing, and we are going to give away a book to the person that wins the drawing, and it is going to be out of everyone that shares the broadcast. So,
and how do you know that if they share?
We'll be able to see afterwards.
Okay, so she'll know. I won't know. She'll know.
Yes, we'll be able to see. So, anyways, this is very exciting, everyone. We did probably about 500 books on Sunday.
Yeah.
And
believe me, I know. It's hard to sign that many times and write that many presentations to them.
Yes, but we just wanted to say thank you to everyone who came out to support Mom, support our family during this difficult time. It's still difficult, just different things that we're facing, but we definitely appreciate all of the support and everything that you all have provided to us. And if you have not gotten your copy of Tapestry, they are $20. And am I correct? They're saying they're $20?
Well, they're $19.99, but we don't charge tax, of course, because it's a nonprofit organization. We're having all of the money is going to RV Ministries, which is the ministry, the 501c3 that Randy had started so many years ago. And so everything's going through there. We've continued to keep it up and running. And we are going to, I will ship also for $19.99, but it will be media mail. If you want a book and you want to have it shipped and you want it to be shipped priority mail, then it's $25.
Okay, great. So you can place your order for these books. Just let us know. You send an email to your email address, jellyjvalamont@gmail.com, or you can message me on Messenger. Okay, great. Yeah. So they are $20, and they are available now. They're also available on Kindle, on Amazon. It's all available, and we're really excited to talk about Tapestry. It's a story of adoption, acceptance, and destiny, and this is about Dad and Dad's life and how it's just the hand of God that was upon his life. But what I want to do now, Mom, is there's been so many people that have asked frequent questions. And what I want to do is just ask you a couple of questions on how the book started and how it came about. And some of the questions that people have already asked, what we're going to do is just ask those questions now, answer the questions. So for those of you that may just be joining, we are going to be giving away another free book for everyone that shares this live broadcast. If you could just like and share, and what we will do is choose someone out of a hat, a name, and draw a winner out of everyone that has shared the broadcast. So, Mom, Tapestry, a story of adoption, acceptance, and Destiny.
And
This
it's
is the book.
backwards.
Yes, it's
And
backwards. Sorry.
We can't, I don't know how to make it not backwards. Oh, here, we can do it like this. See, that's, so I can read it. Just joking, I'm not quite that ditzy.
So, how did Dad write any of this book? Let's just answer that question first.
The book Randy and I started the book in September of 2019. We had talked about it for years. You know, through the years, Randy said, "Oh, the story needs to be told. It's such an amazing story, especially after he connected with both sides of his birth family." So in September, not October, in September of 2019, Randy and I were supposed to be in Washington, D.C., and the night before, it was a Sunday night, I pulled my suitcase out and started packing. And he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, we leave early tomorrow morning. We got to be on a flight by 7. I have to have things in the suitcase." And he said, "We're not going." And he did that sometimes. He was kind of spontaneous like that. He said, "We're not going." So I said, "Okay." So I start taking things out of the suitcase. He said, "No, we are going to go away. We're just not going to go there." And so he wanted to go to the lake and take a few days and start Tapestry. And we sat down when we got to the lake. We were sitting there, and he said, "Okay, we need to start. We need to do something." And I said, "Well, the first thing we need to do is an outline." And I said, "I want to know where you're going with this, what you want to do." And he said, "Great." And I said, "So what do you want to call it?" He said, "Tapestry, a story of adoption, acceptance, and destiny." And it was that quick.
Yeah.
I mean, just like that.
Those of you who know Dad,
Yeah.
know that he could even read 3-4 passages, scriptures in the Word, in the Bible, and give you a sermon right then and there,
Yes.
and give you 3 points.
Yes.
I mean, his mind, he had a brilliant
That's
mind.
what he did. So he gave it to me, and we sat down and we wrote out the outline. And he did tell me at that point in time that there were certain things he wanted included. And one of the things that he wanted included was the points from some of his sermons. And one of the sermons that he wanted included was making a miracle out of your mess. And so that was included in the book. And then there's another one that's included. I can't remember just off the top of my head because I don't have my notes. I don't have any notes. I didn't know this question was going to be asked. So
It's okay.
So anyway,
It's okay.
some of the Randy did not actually write the book, but there are some points in there that are his points. So long way to answer your question, but yes and no.
Right. So the book is actually about Dad's life. And for those of you who may or may not know, my father, Randy Valamont, was adopted in the 1960s, where being adopted was not considered a positive thing. It was
Right.
looked down upon. And Dad always thought that he was the product of, two teenagers messing around in the backseat of a car, right?
Yeah, he did. He said that over and over again, even when we first met. And he never wanted to know. He never wanted to know his story. Didn't want anybody to, people would ask him all the time, well, especially when we were just, newly married, don't you want to know? Don't you want some kind of closure? And it was never that case. He never was interested in closure. He didn't want to see the end of the story or the rest of the story because he had been in ministry, and he knew that a lot of times when adoptees find their families, it is a horrible experience. And I know of, I could just go off the top of my head and tell you 1, 2, 3, 4 different people right now that have searched for their families. They know who their families are, but when they found their families, it was a horrible, horrible experience. And so Randy didn't want to bring that into his life, and he never wanted to know who his family was.
And so, what brought you to what brought Dad to find out about his family? I already know the answer to this. This is for you guys.
Well, this is in the book, and it was it started when Jordan was 15 years old. She got very sick. And
you're welcome. All of you, you're welcome. I always tell people, my sisters and I were always sermon illustrations.
Yes.
So I always tell, there's a great sermon series that Dad did called Pathways of a Prodigal.
Yes.
I just want to tell you all that you're welcome, because here you go.
Yeah, it started with Jordan.
Yeah, it started with me.
Yeah. So anyway, she got very sick, and she was in and out of the hospital. We spent, we never knew when it was going to happen, but she began to have excruciating pain in her stomach, and they, did multiple kinds of tests and couldn't find anything, couldn't find out what was going on. And we did this for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And had to take her out of school, and she was in a homebound learning environment. And it was just horrible. Vomiting and just, I won't even go into all the details, but it was a horrible experience. Yeah, I won't. Well, okay. So you brought it up. Anyway, we had, exhausted everything we knew to do. And Randy came in one day, and I was just bawling because I didn't know what else to do. And Jordan was, laying on the floor in the bathroom and just sick as she could be. And didn't know if we were going to have to go back to the ER and do more fluids, just one thing after another. Anyway, I just looked at Randy and I said, Randy, I know my family history. I know my medical history. Do you think that there could be something in your genetic background that is causing this that we don't know about? And he said, I never thought of that. And I said, Randy, we don't know any medical history. And he said, start looking. And so I started, and he had always been told he was Italian, and he was so proud of that. He called himself a paisan, and he always connected with the Italians in the church, and he just had this great family idea of being Italian. And so he thought he was Italian, and he began to research. And when we got the letter back from Albany, from the Department of Vital Records, and he had always been told that his adoption was open. Mm-hmm. And anytime he wanted to ask, all he had to do was write the Department of Vital Records, and they would give him the information. And so he did that. And when he got the information out, he found out the ages of his birth parents, and that was it. There was no identifying information. There was no names, no ethnic history. There was nothing. And so it didn't do us any good to write and find out this information. After he got this letter, I said, well, that was a waste of time and a waste of a stamp. And he said, well, what are we going to do? And I said, I don't know. Well, in the meantime, the Lord told me what was wrong with Jordan. And I called a pharmacist who was a dear friend of ours, and still a dear friend of ours. And I started talking to him, and I said, is it possible that this is what it is? And he said, 100% possible. And so he began to go and look at all of the side effects of this medication she was taking. And it was every teeny tiny little side effect of the medicine. Jordan had it. And we found out that the doctor who had put her on this medication was supposed to check her blood work every 6 weeks, and every 6 weeks, and supposed to have her on it for no more than 6 months. And she had been on the medication for 18 months and had never checked her blood work again. And so it was definitely a bad call on the doctor's part. And we took her off the medication, and eventually the problems were resolved, and the Lord really, really healed her. But we had kind of cracked the door open just a little bit for Randy to wonder, what is going on? Why?
And if you know Dad, you can't give him a little bit of information and that be finished.
Yeah.
You have to research. He had to have all the information and know everything.
Did.
But we're not going to go into all the details of that part of the story because it's all in here.
Yep, it's all in there.
You need to get it. Tapestry. But one of the things that we did want to talk about during writing this book, and I wanted to ask mom some personal questions. What was it like for you, Mom, when you were writing the book and knowing that Dad is no longer here? What did you go through? What were some of the emotions that you faced?
It was difficult. It was difficult, and that's the best word I can use. Knowing that Randy, that I couldn't cross-reference information with him any longer. His mother is very ill. She's still alive, but his mother is very ill. Both of his birth parents are now in eternity, and his father that raised him, Norman Valamont, is also in eternity. So, so there's, that I could not, my information, I couldn't get all the information, even though I remembered just about everything. There were times that there were, little tidbits of things that I would have to really sit down and think, and I could call, I think I called Ray a couple of times, his little brother Ray, and asked him a couple of questions, and, just tried to get as close to the positive details as I could. But it was hard because I did not have Randy any longer, and there were times that I would sit and I would write a chapter and I'd read back through it and cry because of all the memories and the pain that came up. And that's probably why it took me so long to finish the book. But I got to the point where at the end of the book, one of the last chapters is on destiny. Mm-hmm. And I began to really struggle, because I still struggle with, if there is a destiny on our lives, why is Randy not here to fulfill the destiny that he thought he was going to have? And so I really struggled with that. And, I questioned, I had a crisis of faith. We've talked about that a lot in the last, among our family members. What is a crisis of faith? And, why didn't God heal? And why doesn't God heal? And why weren't things changed? And, all of these things that we go through, we have to really research in our hearts and in our minds also, well, if this is in the Word, but it didn't happen for us, is it still true? So yes. I went through a lot of that, trying to figure out, what is the destiny of God, and why is my destiny now different than what I thought it was going to be? So I went through some very difficult moments and difficult weeks when I would, write and erase and rewrite and go back, and I finally got to the point where I said, okay, this is what I've got to put in here, and I know that God led me to put certain things in the book and question certain things, because we all have these questions. There's why, and one of the big questions that's been asked, if I had $1 for every time somebody said, well, I wish Pastor Valamont was here. I wonder what he would say about this pandemic. I wonder what he would say about this. Do you think he would have closed the church for 8 weeks? Do you think that he would, all the questions?
And we're not going to answer that question.
No, we're not. We're not. And so it's just one of those things that you don't ever have all of the answers for. So that's as far as how was it to write the book. It was difficult. It was very, very, brought up a lot of grief and a lot of pain, but it was also almost like therapy.
Right.
Because I was able to go back and read these things and talk about these things and walk down memory lane and talk about nostalgia, to remember the good. Now, they weren't all good. I don't want you to think they were all good. Everything was not good. It was not all peachy keen and roses, and I'm not looking through rose-colored glasses by any means, but there was still a lot of good that I was able to revisit.
And I think let me ask you this question, and then I want to go back. To sum up, if you could, when people get this book in their hand, mm-hmm. What is the one thing that you want them to walk away with?
That was one of the things that your dad and I talked about. That was one of the first questions I asked him when we were talking about the outline for this book. What do you want to accomplish through this book? And he and I actually wrote it down in the book.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then don't go over it.
But I'm going to go over one of the points.
Yes. We're just kidding.
He wanted people to know that it doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter where you've come from. Doesn't matter your birth circumstances. It doesn't matter what a mess you may think you have made of your life. Mm-hmm. God can still use you. God still wants to use you. And if you'll just submit to His plan and His will for your life and His destiny, then God can and will use you. And I went through scripture and talked about the destiny of God and people that were adopted, and how even though there were things that they thought were going to happen in their lives, it didn't happen the way that they thought it would.
That's right.
And so we, that's the premise. I want you to know that God can still use you.
And just to see how the Lord can take something that's nothing and then turn it into something bigger than we could ever think or imagine.
Yes.
That is what this book is about. It's offering hope, and it's in the middle of, circumstances that are beyond our control. Sometimes we don't see the hand of God. Sometimes we don't feel the hand of God.
Yes.
But the days are not all in. The days are not all in.
That's
and
huge.
one of the things that I wanted to talk about in conjunction with the book is the fact that, a lot of people want to talk about signs, wonders, miracles, the goodness of God and everything that the Lord does. But one of the things that we were speaking about on Sunday, we had some missionaries come in from India, some friends, and they were just sitting down, dropping by
Yes, it
while
was
they
so
were
good to see them.
itinerating. And we were speaking, had a very difficult time. One of our nation's leading pastors and ministries just had his wife that passed away with breast cancer. She fought it for a few years. And I got pretty upset, and I didn't understand why the Lord would allow. This man and his family are being used mightily of the Lord. And God did not heal her. God did not heal this lady. And one of the things that he spoke about, he preached 3 or 4 days after his wife passed away. And one of the things that he said, worshiping through pain is only available this side of heaven.
Yeah.
So it is a privilege. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Does it feel like a privilege?
It does not. It doesn't.
No.
But I think, when you look at this book, when you look at Tapestry and you see that it is a story of adoption, of acceptance, of destiny. And it doesn't necessarily have to be for only people that were adopted or only people who have known someone that are adopted. It's so much more than that.
Yes.
It's more than just the story of somebody's life and how they went through adoption. It's the story of how God's hand is upon everyone that is following him, and what you do with that. One of the things that was so near and dear to Dad, and this is in the book as well, Dad was German and Persian, and came from both of those lines of heritage. And it's funny because he always used to say, he always used to say, I'm a Duranian.
Yeah.
Because his family's from Iran. And one of the things that I think is so powerful is before Dad even had a clue as to what his heritage was.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see how he had a heart for the people in his lineage.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I wanted you to talk about was the cultural diversity that you raised myself, Danielle, and Elena in growing up, and sort of how you saw the hand of God play out with that, with Dad and your ministry and different things that you guys did, and how even in its origination, before Dad knew anything, things were at play and the hand of God was at play.
Right. We from in my genetic heritage, okay, I am part Irish and part American Indian or Native American, and I think there might be some Scottish and English thrown in there somewhere. So So Randy was raised in a household with the Valamont family, French, Polish, Russian. Okay, so we have, America is a melting pot.
It is.
And so we had Randy was raised in that culture, but he had the leanings all of his life. He leaned toward international, multicultural ministry. He always wanted to be involved in missions. And if you were ever in our church for any extended period of time, you knew that missions was a huge part of what happened in our church. And he always said, if you'll take care of God's world, he'll take care of your church. And over again, that was like a thematic element for our church. And so we, when our girls turned 12 years old, he sent them on their first mission trip, or took them on their first mission trip, one or the other. I don't remember, where did you go on your first mission trip? Was it Ecuador?
It was
Peru.
Israel.
Israel, that's right. Y'all were very young. Israel.
Yes.
First
Danielle
mission trip.
was 10, I was 12.
Yes. And so they went on their first mission trip to the Middle East. Elena went to the country of Georgia, and then eventually she was able to go to Israel also. So by the time our kids were in high school, they were world travelers. They had their passports. They, were Israel, Turkey, Iran. Couldn't get into Iran. Went all over the Middle East. Went to, Elena for her senior year in high school, or senior in college. Her last semester of college, she spent in Costa Rica to do language school, and her high school graduation or college graduation, I think it was college graduation, it was high school graduation, she went to the continent of Africa. And oh no, that was a fun one, because the night before she left, we went to see Liam Neeson's movie Taken. And I was not happy after I saw that movie to be sending her overseas by herself the next day. So they all did international travel, and they were exposed to lots of different cultures and lots of different ways of thinking. And even though everything that we did was based in our belief in Jesus Christ as being the only way to heaven, they still were exposed to lots of different mindsets. And I told the girls one time when we were in the country of Jordan, and people in that country, that there, of course, it's mostly Muslim Arabs, and they were blowing cigarette smoke in the faces, and of course they don't have non-smoking areas, and
that's when you could smoke on airplanes.
Yeah, you could.
But
smoke,
I'm still 25. So.
Yeah. So anyway, we I told them, I said, if there's one thing that you have to learn on this trip, it's tolerance. And I'm not saying tolerance for sin, but I'm saying tolerance for other cultures. So they had to learn tolerance for other cultures, and so as a result of our international travel and our different mindsets, we raised our kids to be accepting of other cultures, and it held good. It was in good stead for them as they grew, and especially after we met the Iranian side of the family, because we had never been exposed to any Iranian anything except in missions work.
Yes.
So that's a long way to answer that question.
Which brings me to our next question, or I guess really our next, not really question, but statement, missions.
Yes.
So, Mom, one of the things in your book, when you talk about Tapestry, you talk about how everybody is a part of God's tapestry, and how we're all family, and how God sometimes he takes something that you don't understand and that you don't realize, allows it to happen in your life, and then he weaves a tapestry that's beautiful in the very, at the very end of everything.
Yes.
And it's all for his glory, and we can see how God uses it.
Yes.
Excuse me, I have the hiccups. But one of the things in missions that I thought was so interesting, and that Dad had a passion for, was pastors.
Yes.
And specifically pastors in Iran.
Yes.
And you'll hear more about the Iranian side of the family and the German side of the family in the book, Tapestry.
Right.
And I'm just going to take a little commercial break here before I get into that. I've seen a couple of comments for those asking, can you get the book Tapestry? Yes, you can. You can get it directly from Mom. Just send her a message. It's $20. If you live out of town, it's $25 to ship. And you can get that. They are available if you're local to the Atlanta area. Well, then we can meet up with you if you would like, within reason. But we'd love for you to get a copy, and we are going to be giving away a free book tonight for those of you that share the live broadcast. We are going to be choosing a winner out of everyone that shares. So there we go, Tapestry. It is available, $20 and $25 to ship.
And next week, if everything goes according to plan, I will be going in the studio and doing an audible
Yes.
of the book. And so that will be available. I don't know how long it'll take to do the audible or how long it'll take to make it available, but I do know it's coming.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
Yes. So we are
Yes.
talking about different cultures in Tapestry and what Dad had a passion for. And
Yes.
Mom, talk a little bit about how God used Dad's passion for different cultures. Talk a little bit about like what you saw and how sometimes he related more to people of different cultures
Yes.
other than the white culture.
Yeah.
And this is interesting too. I forgot to add this. When we were in Israel, people would come up to Dad and begin speaking to him in Arab. They would begin to Arabic, yes, Arabic. They would begin to come and speak to him in Arabic, and Dad would just look at them like, "What? Why?"
And he would say, "No, Italian," and they would just shake their heads and walk away.
Yes, they would shake their hands and walk away, and that was interesting because people in that region could recognize other Persian people, and that should have been a little hint for us. But that was interesting. But Mom, talk a little bit about Dad's passion for pastors, and because I don't think that's not necessarily in the book, but it will give you a little bit of background as to part of the book and the I guess the temperature for why Dad was the way that he was in some aspects.
Yes. Well, Randy always loved people. He just loved people, and it didn't matter who they were, what they were doing, but he loved people. And he especially loved when we had the opportunity to travel. He wanted to travel and encourage people, but he especially loved encouraging pastors and touching their hearts. We would go, I'm just as you were talking, I was thinking of different places that he would go where he ministered to pastors. I remember one conference that we did in Russia, and he was ministering to the pastors, and I was ministering to the pastors' wives, and they kind of separated them at that time. But he spoke to one lady who was a pastor's wife, best I remember. And I messed up. She was not a pastor's wife. She was a former prisoner in Siberia, and she began to tell Randy about how she had been waiting for 70 years for God to send the person that she had seen in her dream. And she looked at Randy and she said, "You are that man." And she said, "You have today shared the gospel, and you have shared life with me." And that was like, we
have to stop there for a minute, because I have, the Lord reminded me of this story back this past summer, and this is one of the most prophetic, profound stories that I think, and it just talks more about the tapestry of God.
Yes. And you think about if Randy had been aborted, if he had not been adopted, this lady in Russia all these years ago would have not heard the gospel through Randy. And she had waited. She had had a dream when she was a very young girl that God was going to send somebody who would give her the words of life and who would share the gospel with her. And so she, you think of all of the what ifs. He went to Papua New Guinea. He loved Papua New Guinea. He was met with fanfare, and they gave him a tie that was, from the prime minister, and he loved it. But when he got off the airplane, these men kept looking around and looking, and they couldn't find him. And I believe it was Joe Emmert was there, and he said, well, there he is. And they said, he's white. And Randy he started laughing because they expected him to not be white. They expected him to be black. Mm-hmm. And because of the way he preached.
Because of the way that he preached.
And so it was, then he spent, the next 3 days sharing the gospel with these ministers. And he loved Papua New Guinea. He did the same thing in Africa.
And this is funny because only in Papua New Guinea did they consider him white.
Yes.
Everywhere else, Dad traveled internationally. He was considered brown.
Yes,
per se.
He was.
Because they could see the Persian heritage in him. But that was very interesting.
It was very interesting. And you were talking about the different cultures. I laughed a little bit on Sunday, because you may have to help me here. On Sunday, after we had the book signing, we came back to the house and we had lots and lots of people here. Lots of family. Okay, so we had Danielle here, who is married to an Indian, okay? And so we had people here who were Indian, and then my niece was here, and she is married to a Bangla, Guyanese? Which one is he?
No, he's from Bangladesh.
Okay, he's from Bangladesh. So he was here, and then we had people here who were representing the country of India, and then we had, help me, who else was here? We had, of course, the Iranians, and then we had the white people, and we had so many different cultures.
we had Hispanic people.
Oh yeah,
here.
we had Danny was here, my niece and her husband. He's Puerto Rican, and so we had them here, and so I got kind of tickled. I thought, this is probably a little bit like heaven's going to look.
Yeah,
because
really
we had
amazing.
all of these different ethnicities that were sitting down and eating ham sandwiches together.
Yes,
ham, turkey, and roast beef, not just ham. But it was kind of interesting, and I think had we not all been raised and taught to embrace and welcome other cultures, our family would not be as diverse as it is. So it's kind of fun. It's fun to see. We
love it. Yeah. We love the diversity that we have in our family.
Yes.
I love that too. Dad's passion for ministers, Dad's passion for missions actually came from my papa.
Yes, my
Jelly's dad. And one of the things that Papa always used to say to my father is, if you take care of God's church, or if you take care of God's world, He'll take care of your church.
Yes.
And so that's sort of the mindset that my grandfather mentored my father in, and it's just been in the tapestry of our family and who we are. And one of the things that I thought was so powerful. And Mom, I want you to speak to this. I think it was, you told me this story, I believe it's when you were in Seoul, Korea.
Yes.
And you and Dad were in Seoul, Korea, and do not believe that this is when you had found out the origination of Dad's heritage.
We knew nothing about it.
Right.
It was in 1995.
Yeah,
we had only been
that.
in Griffin for a couple of years. And one of the dear men on the board came to me, Jim Westbury, and he said, Jelly, do you think you would ever like to travel to Seoul, Korea? I said, I don't know, I've never been that far from home. And he said, well, there's a conference. I think you guys, we'd like to send you and Pastor Randy to. He said, will you think about it? And I said, well, no, if you want to send us to Seoul, Korea, we'll see if we can make it happen. So we got our passports and got everything ready and went to the first World Assemblies of God Congress in Seoul, Korea at Dr. Paul Youngie Cho's church.
Love him.
And it was an amazing, amazing event. Randy and I were part of the prayer task force. And what we would do is we would meet at different times during the day, and there would be certain groups of people that we would meet with. And they were people mostly from the Asian countries, and so we would meet and we would pray over the needs for that group of people. And one day we were sitting there, and there was of course, we're talking multiple languages here. And so anytime, and for those of you who've not traveled overseas and done any speaking with anybody, when you speak a language and you have to have a translator, whatever you say is going to take twice as long to be said in the local heart language. So these men would get up and they would share, and then it would be translated, and it would, a 10-minute conversation became a 20-minute conversation, or a 20-minute sermon became a 40-minute sermon. And so all of these people were coming through, and they were sharing their stories with us who were there as a part of the prayer task force. And these two men came up. One was I may be wrong, but I believe he was the general superintendent of the Iranian Assemblies of God, and his brother, who was a pastor of the Iranian Assemblies of God, and they began to share
every time you share this.
Sorry, he began to share about what God was doing in Iran and what they needed in Iran, and Randy just sat down next to me and he just began to weep. And he said, Jelly, the Lord just told me that we really need to pray for these guys. They are here under the threat of their lives. And he said, and one day they will be martyred. And I just was shocked that he would say that. And so I began to listen more intently. And of course I had my little baby camera and I was recording everything. And I began to just feel such a heaviness in my spirit. And so we prayed over that group of people, and then we went to the next group. And within 6 months, I believe it was, we received word that these men had been martyred for their faith. And from Iran. These two pastors from Iran had been martyred for their faith.
And I just want to take a little side note there. One of the things that Dad was so passionate about, especially after he found out his heritage being German descent and of, the Persian Iranian descent, is that he wanted to make sure that he took personal interest in the countries of Germany and the country of, the countries of Germany and Iran. And I remember my dad used to send me on fact-finding trips for him. And one of the privileges that I had was to go with the Flatteries and Network 21.1 and go to Turkey and do a tour of the churches, of the early churches like Ephesus, Colossus, all of those churches. And at that point in time, they did not have a Bible school in Iran.
Correct. All
of the pastors from Iran were coming to Turkey to receive their education. And I remember we were actually, it was me and another pastor that were actually supposed to go into the country of Iran with the Flatteries. But if any of you know any of the history of Iran, you know what happened with the overthrow of the government. I hope we don't get in trouble talking about this.
I think the most of this is common knowledge, but don't share a whole lot about what I think you're going to share. Okay.
So anyways, long story short, I was not allowed to go into the country of...
Couldn't get her visa. She would not get approved.
Was not allowed to go into the country of Iran. And this was before we actually found out who...
we knew.
We knew that he was Persian.
No, we knew the family name, but we had never met them.
Yeah. Right. And so, long story short, I am in Turkey, and I am just so humbled because I am around world changers.
Yeah.
And I remember being in the room with all of these pastors because of my dad's heart for missions and my dad's heart for other cultures. I remember being in that room and being in the same room as a 19 and 20-year-old from Iran. They were Iranian. And I remember through an interpreter with the Flatteries, we were there doing a church service. They looked at me and they were newly married, probably for about, a couple of years, and they had like this 4-month-old little baby. And this man and his wife, 19 and 20 years old, were just so excited. And one of the things that they told me is that we are so excited to be able to be here and learn about the Word of God, because we used to be Muslim, and the Word of God, Jesus came and changed my life.
Yeah.
And one of the things that the Lord has done, especially through the Muslim faith, is because they know who Jesus is, but they don't know him as the true living God and the Son of God. And so a lot of these people will have visions, like supernatural physical encounters, not with just dreams, but encounters. And I remember this through an interpreter, this 19-year-old woman and 20-year-old man telling me their story. And they looked at me and they said, Jordan, it's not a matter of if we are going to die for our faith. It is a matter of when.
Yeah.
When we are going to die for our faith. And I just sat there and I'm like, well, what in the world am I doing with my life? Here I am. I am 23, 24 years old. I'm in the country of Turkey. I'm like, I am nobody. I'm like sitting here. They've just gotten married. They have a 4-month-old baby. They snuck into Turkey to receive education with an underground Bible college, Bible university, so that they can sneak back into Iran, have an underground church, and talk about Jesus to their culture.
Yes.
And it was so important for Dad to weave that tapestry of faith, to weave the tapestry of the love of Christ, and plant seeds in those different countries so that these people could know.
Yes. It's the whole idea of multiplicity. Randy can only do so much as one person. Mm-hmm. And you can only do so much as one person. But if you can, as Randy did, if you can share your faith, and that person that you share your faith with can go somewhere else, and it's like the old Breck commercial, okay? The shampoo commercial. They'll tell 2 people, and they'll tell 2 people, and then before you know it, instead of having 2 people that know the gospel of Jesus Christ, you have hundreds of people. It's building a bigger lifeboat.
Yes.
That's what we're doing.
Yes.
We're building a
Yes.
bigger lifeboat. But as God weaves the tapestry, as we share what God is doing in our lives, and as he knits our hearts together and weaves us together with others who are of like mind, and he takes what has happened in our lives and he uses it. He doesn't just use it, but he uses it for his glory. And all things, that's one of my favorite scriptures, all things work together for the good of those that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. And when things happen in our lives that we don't like, we don't understand, if we give it to God, we know that he is always going to work it for our good.
Yes. And that is why this is not just, we're talking about here tonight, we're talking about Tapestry. We're talking about Mom's book that was just released. Another little commercial break. They're $20 if you want them. For those that are just joining, share this live broadcast and you'll be entered into a drawing to receive a free book. So please like and share. $20, $25 to ship. But this is not just so we can get rich off of this book. Believe me, we're not, this is not. We've invested a lot of capital into this book so that people can hear the story. And the reason why we want you to hear this story is so that you can understand that it doesn't matter where you are and what place you are in your life. God is weaving something. God is taking what you don't understand and has you at a place that you may not understand or that you don't like, so that it can be for his glory and so that he can use you in the future.
Yes.
And I know that with Dad because of his story of adoption and because of how many people heard his story.
You're right.
He was an advocate for not only multicultural ethnicities, but also for pro-life.
Yes,
being pro-life.
He was unapologetically pro-life.
Yes.
And what has happened since his
Yes.
death, just in the last
Yes.
few weeks, with Roe v. Wade being overturned, and I am unapologetically pro-life, 100% pro-life. And you'll read in the book, if you get the book, you'll read the story of, Randy should have been aborted. Mm-hmm. He should have been. It was illegal then, but had his birth father not been called back to Iran to do surgery on the wife of the Shah of Iran, Randy might not be here today. And so you don't know a lot of times the circumstances that God changes so that His plan can be fulfilled.
That's right. And we want this to be a tool. We want this to minister to you. We want you to understand that God has a purpose. He has a plan for your life, and you are part of a greater destiny.
Yes.
And we also want this for unbelievers as well. If you have somebody that you know that does not know Jesus, get this book in their hands.
Yes.
Get this book in their hands. This is a great tool for those who do not know Jesus. It's a great tool for those of you who may not know necessarily how to present the gospel to someone. We want you to get this in your hands and say, look, here you go. This is for you. This is the story of Jesus. And
I'm gonna pull a Randy Valamont here.
okay, all right.
$20 is not that much. $20 is not that much. It is 3 trips to McDonald's. It is a lunch out. It is, just a very small amount to invest in the kingdom. And you're not investing in RV Ministries.
No.
All I'm trying to do right now is to recoup part of the money that it cost me to
Yes.
print this book.
And
so it's really not that much money.
No, it's not. And get the book first if you haven't read it. Read it and realize what a tool it is. Buy them and give them away.
Yes.
I know I have given away a lot, and we're going to be giving away more this evening because we want you to get this story out. We want people to realize that they have a place, they have a purpose. And is there anything else that you want to add, Mom?
I don't think so. I think that once the book, once it's in people's hands and people begin to read the stories and see the destiny that God had on your dad's life and on our lives, they will not just see that destiny, but they will say, oh, so this is part of my destiny. This is, God can take, if God can take Randy Valamont and use him in supernatural ways, God can also use me in supernatural ways. And God does want to use you. He wants to take your life and He wants to make it count for Him. It's not just making it count for yourself. It's making it count for Jesus. And I'm going to use one of the last sentences in the book that you'll read. That is significant. And that's what we all want. We all want to be significant in life, and we want to be significant in eternity. So that is significant. And if you can see the hand of God in your life in some manner, then allow God to use you and allow Him to do what He needs to do in your life.
Yes, we love you all. We
thank
appreciate
you for joining us tonight.
Again, like and share, and the winners will be announced. Or winner, I don't know. We may give away more than one.
Oh, okay.
The winners will be announced tomorrow morning. So, if you can, just like and share this video to your wall, to wherever you would like, and let's get the message out. And then let's also just remember those. Let's remember those who families that are looking to adopt.
Yes.
And also those families that are offering adoption, because both situations are a difficult process. One last thing I wanted to point out is I had a mandate for a shout out that I was supposed to give, and that is to Palin Dvorsny.
Oh,
We love you,
Palin is
Palin.
on, yes.
We love you, Palin.
Yes,
and
Palin.
We're so glad that you love Gigi. Gigi loves you. JoJo loves you. And for those of you that are asking again, you can receive Tapestry for $20.
Same price on Amazon if you want to buy it on Amazon.
Same price on Amazon. The Audible version will be available within a few weeks. Also, if you would like it shipped, it's $25. If you live south of Atlanta, we can meet up with you. I'm in Atlanta frequently, and I can meet up with you if Mom can't. So, we love you all. Thank you for supporting our family, and it's not over. You know, a year from now, Mom.
Yeah.
A year from now, I wonder if we get back on here and we say, this is what Tapestry, this is how God has used Tapestry.
Yeah.
This is where our family is at.
Yeah.
And this is what you supporting Tapestry, you supporting this ministry, this is what it has done, and this is how many souls have been won for the kingdom.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome to be able to do that. So thank you so much again for joining, and for those who said they were ugly crying, I'm sorry, we didn't mean to make you cry. It's good to have you all it's good to be back on here tonight, and I hope you guys again have had a great summer, and that you've enjoyed your the heat in Georgia. If you're not, I hope you've enjoyed your summer and your time with your children if you have children in school, and that you enjoyed the fact that they are going back to school very quickly. And so thank you again, and the Lord bless you. And again, if you do want to get a book, just message me, and I'll we'll make it happen somehow. And if you can truly not afford a book, if you want a book and you truly cannot afford to buy it, message me, and I'll see what I can do about getting a book to you.
And we just wanted to say thank you, because there were some people on Sunday that financially donated.
Yes, they did.
Yes, they financially donated so that you could receive a book. For those who do not know, so this is another reason why we want you to share. We want this story to go out.
Yes.
It's amazing what the Lord has done. And so if people want to know what the book is about, you can always point them to this video. And we're going to be giving away, like we said, we're going to be giving away free copies.
Yes.
So we're so excited, and thank you to everyone that donated so that we can give these free copies of books to people that need them. We love you all again. We appreciate you.
Yes.
And for those of you that are just joining, we are going to upload this video so that you can rewatch it in the beginning. And there's my dad's sister, Suzanne.
Hey, Suzanne.
We love you, Aunt Suzanne.
Love you.
And we will see you guys soon with another Off the Cuff with Jelly and JoJo. See ya.